Good morning and welcome to the Texas Return to Work Roundtable discussion. My name is Aaron Demerson, Commissioner representing employers at the Texas Workforce Commission. I was appointed to this position by Governor Greg Abbott in August of 2019, reappointed in February of this year, and recently confirmed by the Texas Senate. I have the privilege of representing the over 587,000 Texas employers and 2.6 million small businesses across the state. You know, our mission at TWC is to help provide Texans with the job, to provide Texans with a career, and in the words of our senior legal attorney, Tommy Simmons, to provide Texans with another day, another week of available work. And we're all here to do exactly that. You know, Governor Abbott recently said, and I quote, "The Texas economy is booming and employers are hiring in communities throughout the state." According to the Texas Workforce Commission, the number of job openings in Texas is almost identical to the number of Texans who are receiving unemployment benefits. That assessment does not include the voluminous jobs that typically are not listed, like construction and restaurant jobs. In fact, there are nearly 60% more jobs open and listed in Texas today than there was in February 2020, the month before the pandemic hit, which means employers are back in the saddle and looking for and wanting employees to join in on the ride. You know, over the past 3 weeks, I've heard from companies like Grupo out of San Antonio and how they work with companies on incentivizing through innovative Visa prepaid incentive cards. I've heard from folks like Dr. Maricela Jimenez, who's wanting to know what employers need, as the firm she works with, Harvey Nexus, states they have potential employees ready to work. And so today we're pretty excited, and I'm joined today by Adriana Cruz, who is the director of the Office of the Governor's Economic Development and Tourism team. Now, she's a lot more than that. And we'll both be moderating this discussion, and just excited about this day, excited to have a lineup of panelists that are going to be doing a number of different things. And so, Adriana, we have lots to discuss, amazing lineup of speakers who'll be sharing their best practices. And so what's happening in your world?
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Demerson, and thank you all for joining us today. As Aaron said, I'm the Executive Director for the Texas Economic Development and Tourism Office and the Office of Governor Greg Abbott. And on behalf of Governor Abbott and the entire team at the Economic Development and Tourism Office, I want to thank you for joining us for this important roundtable discussion. You know, under Governor Abbott's leadership, our office is committed to work with Texas businesses and our industry partners to make sure that the Lone Star State continues to rank as the top state in the country for business. 2020 has been a challenging year for our state, for our nation, and for the world. And our Texas businesses, large and small, were faced with tremendous challenges this year that we had to overcome, as did our residents and our communities. So this March, Governor Abbott issued an executive order increasing the capacity of all businesses and facilities to 100%, effective March the 10th. However, as you said, Aaron, we've been hearing from a lot of businesses that have been challenged with being able to do that. So today we're talking to employers and industry associations about how we can effectively return to work and so that we can get back to 100%. So Commissioner, I appreciate so much the opportunity to be here with you today and for partnering with you on this event. And I'm interested to hear more from our industry partners and our associations on what are some of the best practices that they're seeing.
Good. And so glad to have Adriana here with us. We're going to have an exciting time today. It's a lineup of panelists that you're going to hear from with their best practices, and it's going to work just fine. And so with that, I want to introduce a member of the team that actually markets the state. And basically, it takes a team to really make things work in Texas. And so we have Robert Allen joining us with the Texas Economic Development Corporation. He's the president, CEO of that organization. And I'm quite sure he's heard a lot from the members of his group. And so Robert, tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Demerson. I very much enjoyed the opportunity to be with you and the other esteemed professionals that are going to join today. And, you talk about what we do. We are the private side of a public-private partnership with the Governor's Office of Economic Development and Tourism, headed up, of course, by Adriana Cruz. And so our job is to market the state of Texas domestically and globally as the best state for business. And frankly, I think it is hands down, but you shouldn't take my word for it. You should listen to others. Take, for example, CEO Magazine recently ranked Texas for a record smashing 17 years in a row, the best state for business. State of Texas has won 9 governor's cups in a row. These are given to the state with the most qualified economic development projects. And for 19 years in a row, the state of Texas has been the lead export state in the United States of America. So, I think that really shows you the power of what we're talking about here and why today's conversation is so important. But I would ask the question, why is it so important that we get the full might of the Texas economy back up and running? Well, for some who may not know, if Texas were its own country, we would rank the 9th largest economy in the world in terms of gross domestic product or GDP, ahead of countries like Russia, Australia, and Brazil. And you should know that we moved from the 10th largest economy to the 9th largest economy at the very beginning of this COVID-19 global pandemic. So in my opinion, it really shows what Texas is capable of doing, kind of despite the challenges that we face. And why is our economy so powerful, Commissioner? Well, it's because of our Texas workforce. And I recently wrote about the power of our workforce in a blog post, and I took a really deep dive at some of our competitor states. And I thought the results were telling. I want to share just 2 of them with you right now. Did you know that our population is 35% greater than Florida's? That population, by the way, is also younger than Florida's. Our median age is 35. And if you look at median age compared to some of our other competition, we are younger than Georgia, Arizona, Illinois, North Carolina, New York, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And if you look deeper at our 14 million and growing Texas population, you'll find that we are 38% greater than Florida, 47% greater than New York, and a staggering 291% greater than Arizona. So, Commissioner, thank you again for convening today's important discussion. I wanted to give you some context as to why it's so important that the state of Texas, the United States of America, and frankly, the world has an economy in Texas that is firing on all cylinders. And today's conversation is a positive step in that direction. So thank you again for the opportunity to be with you.
Robert, thank you so much for all that you do. And you're going to have to get a new trophy case back there with all those trophies that are there. And let me say, some of you guys on the phone, you're Texans, and so you'll know this for sure. You may think that Robert was bragging, but in Texas, we know for sure it ain't bragging if it's true. Fact of the matter is those things are happening, and we're taking care of business in a big, big way. And it takes a team, again, to do that. And so, Robert, thank you so much for all that you guys are doing. And we look forward to the ride ahead. Thank you so much. And so also joining us today, as I mentioned, the team, there are resources available in the state of Texas, and a number of resources. We have 28 local workforce boards throughout the state of Texas. So we have Tamara Atkinson, who's the president and CEO of the Capital Area Workforce Solutions team, to join us. She's also the president of that organization that sits with 28 local presidents and CEOs as well. And so Tamara, tell us what's happening in your world.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to say it's so nice to see you, Commissioner Demerson and Adriana. So nice to see you. So again, my name is Tamara Atkinson, and I'm here today wearing 2 hats. I serve as the CEO of Workforce Solutions Capital Area in Austin, and I'm also proud to serve as the president of the Texas Association of Workforce Boards Economic Development Council. Essentially, I'm here representing boots on the ground, helping business find talent. Workforce development boards are in every single county across the state of Texas. We sit in your communities at the hub, supporting local people, connecting local people to local jobs. And the secret sauce, I like to say, to the work that we do is bringing together economic development, educational institutions and resources, and workforce development to meet business needs to find talent. So I'd like to just share with you very briefly a few of the ways that workforce boards across the state of Texas can support businesses in finding talent at this time. Workforce development boards can assist employers in posting job openings and work in Texas. We can host hiring events, in person, virtually, or drive-through in some cases. We're here to meet your needs in real time. We can help spread the word about hiring events that are happening through social media and mass emails to job seekers to get the word out. We can share wage and labor information so that you as business owners and leaders can assist with employee recruitment and retention. We can host presentations about available services at meetings held by chambers of commerce, economic development entities, and industry associations. We can assist with computer kiosks for Work in Texas access, especially in rural communities. And finally, last but not least, we partner with educational institutions such as school districts and community colleges to ensure that students graduate with the knowledge, skills, and credentials to be successful in careers. In short, again, workforce development boards are your boots on the ground, here to serve you and Texas businesses and getting Texas back to work. Thank you.
Tamara, thank you again for joining us. 28 local workforce solution offices throughout the state, the boards that are out there. They were going to have the information in the chat box as well. And so, as Tamara mentioned, those are the boots on the ground where the rubber meets the road, and they're taking care of all the employment needs at that local level. We're also glad to have with us today Glenn Hammer. Glenn is coming to us from the Texas Association of Business, premier organization here in the state. Glenn is new and recent to the state of Texas, and so let's give him a Texas welcome and bring him on board. Glenn, welcome to the state of Texas, and welcome to our Putting Texans Back to Work roundtable.
Well, Commissioner, thank you very much for having me on the program, and Adriana as well. And Robert, that is quite a trophy case, and I apologize. I may have brought up the age of the workforce a little bit moving here from Arizona, but I'm really blessed to be in the great state of Texas, which, spoiler alert, is really a country. But this is why this meeting is so important. Since I've been here, I've had the great opportunity. Aaron Cox from our office does really a great job working with all the different chambers across the state of Texas. And as the chambers have been coming to Austin to meet with their lawmakers on different legislative items, I always go through our items and then leave time for what's on their minds. The number one issue, workforce. Workforce. So all of these legislative items we're working on, yes, they're important, but Texas companies are hiring. And when you look around the state, the growth is spectacular. As you know, Robert had some of the statistics, but I'll add a couple more, Commissioner, that I believe was included in your release. Announcing and the governor's release announcing that the federal assistance would no longer be accepted. There are great jobs available now across the state of Texas. I believe 45% plus are paying more than $15 an hour. So just walking around Austin, I see every day jobs starting 17, 18, 19 bucks. So what's happened here is it's a great Texas and American success story. As these American engineered vaccines are getting into our arms, the economy has re-energized a lot quicker than people expected. So what's happened is that the economy is booming, but the constraint is workers, and workers in manufacturing, workers in tourism. We'll hear about that in a bit. Workers in restaurants, workers in retail, workers really across the board. So what we want to do here at the Texas Association of Business is work with our hundreds of chamber partners around the state and get the great information out that the Texas Workforce Commission is doing. And my final point is that when we've had the chance to meet, Commissioner, it is really a very sophisticated network that you have established. And we look forward to working with you and Adriana with you as you just continue to win every single year as making Texas the best place to do business. We need workers, and this event today is really important in helping to connect the dots from great Texans who are looking for work and all of these great companies that are looking for workers. Thank you.
Glenn, thank you so much. Governor Abbott has given us the green light to take care of business, and we're looking forward to doing exactly that. And thank you for allowing your chamber executives as well to be a part of this event as well. And so, we're coming up on the summertime, and so I want to turn it to Adriana because there's a lot of folks that are wanting to travel. There are a lot of folks that are wanting to get out, and her major stakeholders are all of those groups. And so, Adriana, you want to introduce our next guest?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Commissioner. And you're absolutely right. Tourism is so important to the state of Texas. And so the next person that we're going to be hearing from is Erica Boyd. She's the interim president and CEO of the Texas Travel Alliance. So Erica, tell us what's going on in the tourism industry.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Adriana. Commissioner Demerson, thanks for having us this morning. Great to be here with such esteemed colleagues and some of our members who you will hear from in a little bit directly about what's happening in the industry. As many of you know, travel and tourism has been one of the most, if not the most hard hit industries by COVID, the pandemic, and the economic fallout. And at the height of job losses, we had lost over 500,000 jobs within the industry. This is an industry, travel and tourism encompasses anything and everything and more than you might think of as tourism. It is the attractions that you visit with your family every summer, the hotels you stay in, the restaurants that you eat at in a community, any piece of a vacation that you might take or a family trip. You are lifting the economy, you are lifting travel and tourism and related businesses. And it really is a network of not just our organizations and our employees, but truly travel and tourism can be the boat that lifts all tides. So, you know, we know that we are making progress towards recovery and we are bringing people back little by little. We still have significant holes to fill. We are thankful that the governor, one, was allowed us to open up our capacity to 100%. And now with the not extending the federal benefits further, we're optimistic that we can start regaining jobs into the summer season, which we see as being very strong. We know that a majority of Americans and Texans are ready to travel, have already started traveling. Our spring break and continuing spring leisure trips that we are seeing across the state are outpacing what we saw as 2019 highs. So we know that the pent-up demand is starting to be released, and the savings that people had during COVID is really feeding into this economic recovery in our communities. The piece that is holding us back is not being able to have enough people to work to truly be at capacity and meet the needs. So we still have businesses that can't fully open. So we appreciate the governor's work on this, and we're glad to be a part of recovery and look forward to being as helpful as we can in any way we can. This is truly, truly the best state to live. So we're glad to be here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Erica.
Good. And margaritas to go, Adriana. I think that's legislation that's been passed
Yes,
as well.
it
And
is.
so folks are ready to get out, and we're doing a great job at that. The Texas economy is booming, and we're excited about that. So we've had a great lineup of panelists. The individuals that presented, some of you guys may not have known those resources that are out there. You may not have been in touch with folks like the Texas Economic Development Corporation, the Texas Travel Industry Alliance, the Texas Travel Alliance, and groups like the Texas Association of Business and the like. And so we are excited to have the team here, excited to have Adriana here, the governor's office as well. But we're going to get to what Tamara mentioned, which is where the rubber meets the road at the local level. And so these industry groups that we're going to bring to you next are really going to share some of their best practices in regards to what they're doing in order to make a difference. And so we're going to start out with Scott Norman. I think Scott's there with the Texas Association of Builders, and he also has with him Ron as well, who's with Perry Homes. And so Scott, tell us what's going on your side. Folks want buildings right now. Folks want homes right now. Folks are needing it like yesterday. And so what are you guys doing to make sure that that's happening on that side?
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that introduction, and appreciate you and all your team pulling this together. This is very timely. As was stated by the earlier panelists, Texas is open for business, and our industry, primarily home building, some multifamily construction, we were fortunate that the governor recognized the need for our industry to be deemed essential during the pandemic, when everyone was having to work, pray, eat, staycation, and everything else in their homes. The value of people's homes to themselves and their families skyrocketed. And so we have seen, surprisingly, during the downturn, the housing market in Texas has continued to thrive. Unfortunately, though, we, before the pandemic hit, even had a serious labor shortage in our industry. Ron's going to talk a little bit about some of the statistics here in a second, but it has only been exacerbated during the downturn or during the pandemic. And so we are begging and pleading, trying to get workers for our industry. Interestingly, a lot of people don't think about construction as a career opportunity. If you didn't grow up around it or have people, acquaintances that were in the business, a lot of people, it's somewhat a foreign occupation to a lot of people, or at least intimidating. But these are high paying, great jobs. A lot of the tradespeople that work on our job sites end up being small or even large business owners. They almost all rise up through the trades. It does take some education and getting some certificates perhaps to help you get on that path. But we have opportunities. Our 26 local home builders associations are partnering both in the pub ed space, community colleges, trade schools, creating programs, not just for students coming up, but for adults of all ages who may be thinking about changing a career. Because the two things that drive housing growth in the state are population growth and job growth. And Texas certainly has both of those in spades. And we talk all the time at the Capitol and dealing with local governments. All of these jobs have to sleep somewhere at night. And our members are in the business of building bedrooms and homes for people to live. And so those opportunities are there. Texas, since the 08-09 downturn, has led the nation in housing starts. We have 4 of the top 10 housing markets in the United States, and Dallas, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio are all in the top 10. And the growth all over the state, from Amarillo to Brownsville, from Texarkana to El Paso, housing is booming, both new construction and remodeling, multifamily space. And so the jobs are there. I encourage folks listening and those at the local workforce boards to partner with our local home builders associations, because there's a lot of innovative programs that we are doing, and along with our Texas Builders Foundation that is working to try to get people educated and into the construction space. I'll post a link to our website here in a second on the chat box. But in the last few years, we've started some innovative programs. We work extensively with Texas State Technical College and their campuses around the state. They have a great construction trades program to upskill people or reskill people or train people that want to get into the industry. And so I invite you to check that out, as well as many of the community colleges around the state have really gotten back into the CTE space, something that both pub ed and the community colleges, junior colleges have kind of abandoned over the last few decades. They've all seen a need now to get back into technical education because there is such a desire both in the construction and other skilled trades going forward. So with that, I will pass it to Ron, one of our builders that has been very active in this arena, to continue on this line of conversation.
Thank you, Scott, and for all the work that you're doing. And thank you for your work on our JET advisory board as well. Jobs and Education for Texans. The work that you guys are doing in that regard it's paying dividends in big ways. And so let's bring Ron on with Perry Holmes to kind of talk about what he's doing on that side.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I just got kicked off and I just got back on, so it's timely. My name is Ron Rohrbacher. I appreciate you guys being here. My background is I was a high school and community college teacher for 13 years. In the last 30 years, I'm Vice President of Construction for Training at Perry Holmes. I'm a trustee of the Texas Builders Foundation. I just want to give you a little brief background here. We've been dealing with this for quite a while. We have a lot of construction labor issues here in Texas and in the nation. By 2031, 41% of the construction staff in the United States will age out. The average age of a construction worker in the United States right now is 43 years old. And the part that's really alarming is less than 10% of the current construction labor force is under the age of 25. So the United States, Texas, but all told, we need about 3 million homes in the United States. And that's being optimistic. Actually, it's probably about 3.5 million. So how did we get this way? Well, in the early 90s, technical education in Texas started a downward trend, and it's taken us 30 years to get to this point. So recently in 2013, we had House Bill 5. Obviously, most of the CTE or shop classes were eliminated in junior and senior high schools. And so this bill helped to re-energize the shop class get them back into play. I was on Indeed yesterday and I saw where there was 18,000 construction jobs available in Houston alone. So how are we fixing the problem? What are we doing to solve this? Well, one of the first things is that Houston is a pilot program for the Texas Association of Builders. We reintroduced CTE programs into local community colleges like Houston Community College, Lone Star. And when you talk about thinking out of the box, there's a fellow here in Houston, his name's Jim McInvale, he owns Gallery Furniture. And he decided that he was going to start an academy. And it didn't matter whether you were a student or whether you didn't have your GED or you were somebody trying to better your life. He started an academy there. We use an HBI curriculum, so they get a certificate and they can work in the construction field here in our industry. Another out of the box thing is he provides daycare from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock. So he's trying to get people that are trying to better themselves, maybe are out of a job or maybe just looking to do something different, get them back in the workforce. Texas Association of Builders and GHBA, Greater Houston Builders Association, we formed an agreement with the Home Building Institute. It's an arm of the NAHB, National Association of Home Builders, and we use their curriculum in these colleges. That certificate is a nationwide certificate, so people can move back and forth. One of the things that we started to do is to look for alliances that would actually help our industry. And so the GHBA, Texas Association of Builders, and the community colleges got together. We got together with Habitat for Humanity here in Houston. And we struck a deal there that Habitat would use the HBI curriculum. And what it did for us is that instead of having kids go to, or students, when I say kids, I mean, they could be grown-ups, they're trying to get an education. Instead of building a small section of a house in a laboratory somewhere, they actually go to Habitat and they build houses. And so they're getting real life experience. It helps Habitat, and it's a win-win because Habitat has the materials. They've got the curriculum that the community colleges are using. So it's a seamless process. And these kids or adults are building Habitat houses. And surprisingly, many of them qualify for Habitat houses. So we're also negotiating with HBI, Home Builders Institute. They're going to possibly in the next 18 months put a $1.3 million construction academy here in Houston. We have an advocate program, a Greater Houston Builders Association does, where it takes builders and it puts them out in community colleges, high schools, and junior highs to talk to kids to try to get them into our industry. In years past, we didn't have to worry about that. And it was like, well, they will come. Well, they're not coming. So we've got to go out there and meet them halfway and encourage them to come in. And so how are we fixing the employment issue? Well, we have an agreement, Houston does, with Building Talent Foundation. And that is a group formed from 20 of the largest home building companies in the United States. And we had them put an engagement officer here in Houston. And what their job is to locate people that need jobs and put them in place with people that are hiring. And so that's their sole duty. We have the GHBA Work Texas, which is Jim McInvale's academy, and the Houston Community College. We're starting to have construction employment events. What we do with the GHBA is, because GHBA has lists of all the builders, they're contacting the builders and saying, get your employees out, or employers out there, the people that work for you, the vendors and trades, and we'll meet them up with these folks that are graduating or people that are looking for jobs. And so we're having employment, construction hiring events. We learned something. We don't do job fairs. When you say job fairs, people think, well, it's just kind of a meet and greet and it's a networking thing. And so what we're doing is we're going to those employers and saying, how many jobs do you have available right now that you can hire? And then we'll advertise that, hey, in July, actually, we have over 200 jobs, construction jobs that are available. So we will advertise that and say, bring your resume, bring yourself, be ready to get hired, because you may have a job when you walk out of here. So future hiring events, two things that we're looking at is to try to pair with other things that are already established. In Houston, we have the Houston Builders and Remodelers Show. It's already there. So why not tag team and have a little hiring event with that, in conjunction with that, because there's a lot of vendors and trades there. So it's one of the things that you just got to kind of think, who can help you? There's a lot of folks out there there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of grants and things to get education, and we'll take everybody that wants to participate. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Good, Ron, thank you guys so much. Scott, innovative thoughts. And we're picking up on things that are out of the box. And that's what it's going to take for us here in Texas to truly make a difference. And so thank you guys for what you're doing. Thanks for sharing that information as well. Ron, we're going to ask about the Chicago Bears helmet a little bit later. So when we circle back around, you can tell us that story as well. But you guys are doing some phenomenal work on that side. And we need those employees for those particular jobs. I have two other fellow commissioners, Julian Alvarez, he's a commissioner that represents labor, very interested in those construction jobs in that entity, and also our chair, Brian Daniel, who represents the public. Both are on board with all the things that we're doing in that regard. And so I want to make sure that they're circled in as well. But good information, Ron, from you guys. And Scott, thank you for participating as well. We'll circle back with you guys. The trucking industry. The trucking industry, that's a big concern. That's been a concern before the pandemic as well. And so we have Ernesto Gayton joining us from the Texas Truckers Association. Glad my good friend John Esparza, who's running that organization over there, invited Ernesto. Ernesto's the incoming chair of that organization as well. John refers to him as the chair at this point. So Ernesto, tell us what's happening in the trucking world on your side.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Commissioner Demerson, also Adriana Cruz from the governor's office as well for putting this together, putting, Texas back to work, the workforce that we need. As you know, the trucking industry it's critical for the economy to get supplies to where it needs during the pandemic. We were an industry that could not stop, just like some of the other essential industries. So we did a lot. I think first and foremost is safety and safe work practices for our employees. From a very, very early start before the pandemic actually hit us very hard, we started taking those steps to prevent the exposure, infection, and spread. So we do a lot to provide the PPE, the personal protection equipment for our employees. We implemented a lot of strategies for coping with that COVID-19. And luckily, as far as our company, STI, we did not have any contamination, any infections that were spread through work. When we did our research, a lot of these things were actually coming from employees getting it from their home, from doing things that probably they weren't supposed to. And obviously that affects the work that we do. But in order for us to continue, we had to kind of do things a little differently. We had to manage more flexible work arrangements for some of our employees, especially those with children at home. We did, change some of the times where they could come in, and that really, kept our employees working. Our drivers, the people that handle the paperwork, definitely, everybody that needs to be involved in handling stuff coming from all over the country, because we don't only deliver stuff in Texas, we're kind of all over the country. So drivers coming in, making sure that they're, that they're safe, that we provide that work environment that is safe, I think is key to putting the workforce back together. As far as, also boasting about Texas, I'd like to say, we are here in Laredo, where our main corporate office is. We're the largest land port in the United States here in Texas, in Laredo. We handle between 16,000 to 18,000 truckloads a day. So a lot of stuff with our largest trading partner, Mexico, coming in. And so, we were already struggling with a driver shortage, a mechanic shortage, and obviously with the COVID, with the pandemic, it gets worse, obviously. So, working with the Texas Workforce Commission, I think some of the things that can be maybe done a little bit better is pushing more the Workforce Investment Act. There are programs to get drivers involved, to get a CDL training program from local schools. And this is a paid training, and CDL costs. A lot of people don't know that. So I think pushing that out in our local communities to get drivers more engaged and involved. or people that want to become drivers, that's going to be extremely important. Currently there's about a 50 to 60,000 driver shortage in the United States nationwide. And that is estimated to go up to 250,000 by 2026. If we do not do something about drivers. It's a very tough job to be away from home, to be away from your family. So we have an issue to get people to want to become drivers more and more. So what we do is try and regionalize some of the stuff. We have terminals in Dallas, Houston, Nashville, Tennessee, Detroit. So we try to give the drivers a little more home time and trying to do that as far as ourselves. But I mean, there is a huge need for drivers all over the nation, and we have to continue to push, especially with the help of the government, with the Texas Workforce Commissions, which our group works very well with, to try and get more workers. Another thing that I believe can help would be having the people feel safe. So maybe mandating that, and I know it's a little controversial because some people don't want to get vaccinated, but having the vaccine to be mandated makes everybody else around them feel safer. And so most of our employees are, but we got a couple that don't want to. And so that puts some of the people, makes them a little nervous. So I know, according to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, COVID-19 meets the direct threat definition. So that's something to consider. And I think something that maybe, that could help. But I mean, we haven't stopped. Trucking has to keep going. We have to be able to deliver the goods to the communities in needs. We deliver the medicines, the groceries, the toilet paper, the waters, everything that's needed in every community. So it's an extremely important part. I will say Texas is also leading the way on passing legislation. It's hard to give a driver an opportunity coming right out of truck driving school, getting their CDL and having no experience. It becomes a liability for the employer. Most companies will not hire a driver with less than 2 years of experience. So that creates a problem within our industry. And why does that happen? Because there is a lot of frivolous lawsuits, a lot of lawsuit abuse within our industry. And I'm happy to say that just this week, we had a bill introduced that we've been working on for many years to combat lawsuit abuse. And it passed the House and the Senate, and hopefully will be on the governor's desk to be signed very soon. So I'm very proud of that. That legislation, I think, is going to help with getting more people to be able to hire drivers with a little bit less experience. Not that we want drivers with no experience. We want them to be safe. But there are training programs within each company that hires these types of drivers. We ourselves are a part self-insurance, so we can hire drivers with right out of truck driving school, but they have to go through a rigorous program, and it takes a lot of money and a lot of time. So not everybody can do it, but I think getting these things done, getting the lawsuit abuse taken care of, and then pushing for more help with making it more known. A lot of people don't even know about this Workforce Investment Act and some of the jobs that they can get help with for the training and payment for the CDL. So it's not cheap. So those things are going to be key. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time and very excited and very grateful to be invited on this call, and applaud the governor's office as well for what he's doing and getting people back to work. I think it's very important. We talk to all the industries, and there is a big shortage for all kinds of stuff: mechanics, dispatchers, customer service people that get a little comfortable. And if I may, just one last thing that I think maybe could help as well is having more training on companies that get the unemployment claims. Sometimes a lot of these companies don't know. Some of the smaller business owners don't know how to reply to some of these. So automatically, even if it's a frivolous claim, the employer doesn't know how to answer that. And so what happens a lot of times is, the employee is comfortable being at home, getting the benefits without actually having a real cost or necessity to get those benefits or getting it to the right people that need it. So I think more education to the business community. I know there are more events as far as, Texas wide, when you guys do seminars, we're there in Austin and different areas. But I think the local workforce here in Laredo and different cities to actually have a better or a closer relationship with the local business, with the local chambers, to educate some of these companies, I think would be key, and it would help put people back to work, because some of these people just, they're very comfortable not working. So.
All right. Ernesto, Ernesto, thank you so much for joining us in regionalization of concepts, making it more aware. You brought out some very good, interesting points that we can take back, and I appreciate you sharing that. The other thing, you're in Laredo, and my colleague Adriana Cruz is actually from Laredo, so you have someone from home in that regard. But a lot of good concepts that you've mentioned. We see the opportunities. Adriana is going to introduce Andy Spielman with the National Federation of Independent Businesses down the line. And so you're giving me food for thought on other things that we can do in collaboration with these members of the team to address those small business issues. And Adriana will talk about that as well in regards to what they're doing on that side. So I'm going to turn it over to Adriana to have a few remarks in regards to introducing our other panelists.
Thank you, Commissioner Demerson. And we've been hearing from some diverse industry sectors, construction and trucking. And now we're going to talk to some restaurant owners. As Erica mentioned, leisure and hospitality was one of the industries that was the most hardest hit and is suffered greatly from the economic fallout of COVID-19. So we're going to hear from Nikki Tafoya, the Divisional Talent and Acquisitions Manager for Whataburger, and Clark Davis, the Director of Investor and Government Relations from Brinker International. So let's start with Nikki. Can you tell us how you all are doing and what are some of your best practices and strategies that you're employing?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So thank you for allowing me to attend this. It's super exciting. And we've been doing a lot. It's been definitely a crazy year of adjusting to working from home, but still doing the recruiting game and attracting talent. So Whataburger, we really took the opportunity to kind of look at how we were both protecting our current family members and how we were still attracting those family members to come in and work. Whataburger from the beginning was considered essential. So we were working the whole time throughout the entire pandemic. We've been working, our employees have been working. So we did a few things. First, we protected the family members that were with us. That was through PPE, but also through protection of hours. In a lot of the restaurant, we were very fortunate. There was a wide scoping effect to restaurants during the pandemic, but with us being, quick service and having the drive-through, we really could protect our family members' hours. We didn't have to cut anybody. So if they were normally getting full-time hours, we gave them full-time hours. Even when sales were down, we said, no, we're going to protect it. We'll find things for you to do. We'll keep you at work until the business returns, right? We also gave them bonuses for being there with us. We protected our ops bonus program for the first 2 quarters of the pandemic while we figured out what the business was going to do, and we implemented some new systems. So that was first step of protecting our internal family members that were already with us. When it comes to the attraction point, I think when you look at restaurants, I think there's a hesitancy to come back because they did get hit so hard in people getting unemployed, right? We had the opposite effect, but I think that there is a stigma around quick service and saying, oh, it's just burgers, right? I don't want to, there's that thing of don't get your education, you'll end up flipping burgers for your life. So we've really at Whataburger hit that head on and said, you know what? Okay, but we created what was called it was basically a leadership conference. We did a virtual leadership conference and publicized it. And we had our internal family members telling their career journey. And we did invite, like David Robinson was a speaker there, but really we hit head on about why would you want to build a career with a quick service chain? And we talked more openly about what our pay scales are. We've been very private about that in the past. So we've become more open on, you can make a 6-figure job out of this. Our operating partners are 6-figure operating partners, and some of them started with us at 16 years old as a team member, and they didn't go to college. And you can create a career that you can take care of your family with. So we've really hit that head on, some of these stigmas that exist about working in quick service and some of those things that make us unique in quick service. We also relooked at some of our benefits. So we relooked at our vacation policy and enhanced that. So that's coming out here. We also looked at our uniform policy. So we kind of enhanced that a little bit to attract, family members. We've never allowed nail polish. We are now going to allow that because we're wearing gloves all the time. So we're allowing that. We're allowing men to have facial hair, which we've never done that before. So we've relooked at how can we stay protected? How can we keep the food safe? But how can we, attract people that maybe have never looked at us because of these policies that we've had for a really long time. We also looked at our compensation and bonus structure and enhanced the entire bonus structure for our leadership team. So it's become extremely lucrative for them, which is fun. We also enhanced our referral program. So we're doing a short-term enhancement to the referral program where the payout is almost instant. And it is larger than it was before. So we're really leveraging our internal family members and saying, hey, you bring on friends and family to us, we'll pay you to do that. So we're holding live hiring events. And as mentioned earlier, we're being very clear that we need to hire 50,000 new family members in the next year. Whataburger has insane growth that's coming up. It's across the board. We're growing very fast. So in the next year, we need to hire 50,000 people. So we're being very clear about that. We've also looked at our national partnerships. So we've created a national partnership with the NRAEF, so the National Restaurant Association Education Fund. So we now have a brand new partnership with them where we're getting directly into the classrooms with the students and talking to them about the career opportunities. Same thing with DECA. We created a national partnership with DECA and we're getting into the classrooms with those students as well and saying, hey, this is why you would want to consider it. It's more than just what you see in the restaurants. We have support opportunities like myself and corporate office opportunities. We also went through and created a relationship with Hiring Our Heroes and SkillBridge for those transitioning veterans. So we brought on our first fellow just recently in the past week. He started last week and he's doing phenomenal. We're super excited. So we formalized that program, which we've never done before. And then also just at a local level, looking at those CTE programs and those instructors, those are individuals that have to work during the school year. So we really get in there and we help with like mock interviews, that kind of stuff. So we found getting active into the classrooms is really a great way to get in front of the students and start kind of changing some of that stigma that exists around quick service.
Well, thank you so much, Nikki. I really love all of the ideas that you're talking about, this being a career, a long-term opportunity for folks, for your team members. And I think we can all agree that Whataburger is essential. So
I agree.
we agree with that.
And Adriana, I'll say we have the cones whenever you're waiting for your meal. So I need to return a couple of those back to Whataburger.
Yeah. You can keep them. It's all right. We can order them again.
So now let's hear from Clark Davis with Brinker International. Clark.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Commissioner and Adriana. We really appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you guys today. I know it's an interesting time in sort of the economic rebound that we've been seeing. I mean, we've got sales that are shooting through the roof, but not enough folks to fill the jobs to make those restaurants run like they should be. In some ways, it's a good problem to have because we are excited that the rebound has been so robust that we're almost caught unprepared given the situation, but we're really excited about what we're seeing in sort of the markets and what consumers are looking for. And, we're excited to get back to regular staffing levels that we've had before. And, Nikki talked a lot about sort of the education programs that the restaurant industry is pursuing. And it's funny because, I would echo a lot of the different strategies that they've also mentioned. We provide free associate's degree programs for our team members as sort of a perk to allow for that career progression that can be so difficult in some entry-level jobs. And we've also created, a veterans program through the NRAEF, the Education Foundation, to help folks that are transitioning out of military service into the restaurants. Also looking at partnerships with ProStart, which is sort of the high school culinary experience for those kids that want to work in food service but don't really know how to get involved. And so creating pipelines from those to create sort of a career progression is definitely a priority for Brinker. And we've actually had a lot of success in that. And the anecdotal stories that come out of what we call our Best U EDU, and that's the associate's degree program, has been really inspirational. And it's sort of changed the DNA of the company to really emphasize that as part of our people development aspect. And so we're really excited about that. And we're leveraging those benefits as we start to try to attract people back to the restaurants right now, in the sense that, we're marketing those in a way that we never have really before. And we're getting a lot of really good feedback from team members that are actually utilizing those services and want to be a part of that. And so, as we set out a goal sort of publicly a couple of weeks ago that we wanted to rehire 10,000 people in 10 weeks. And it was a big goal and we were excited about it and we were ready to get those folks back in the restaurants. Because I'll be honest with you, our sales numbers are 10% above 2019 levels, but our staffing is 20% lower than that. There's a huge gulf between what the sales numbers are and the folks that are in the restaurants. So we set that goal out, and given our training and our recruiting teams, they've exceeded that number so far. So we are very excited to see that the tides, at least in our case, are turning in the positive direction that we were hoping for. And, but there's no magic bullet here, is what I'll say, is I think our recruiting and our talent teams were sort of looking for that one thing that was going to bring everybody back. And that just hasn't been the case. I would say there's about 15 strategies that we've used to attract folks back to the restaurant. And, whether that's offering retention bonuses for folks that stay past 90 days, or even referral bonuses, which we found to be a pretty effective way to crowdsource the recruiting effort, if you will. We've got signing bonuses in certain critical markets. And we've got, this is kind of interesting, candidate rediscovery is what we've discovered has been a really effective message, or tool, I should say. And that's, we're going back and recontacting candidates who applied during the pandemic when dining rooms were closed. So we went back and we basically spammed them with text messages and said, hey, are you interested in working at a Chili's? And we got a lot of hires from that. So it's been a pretty effective strategy for us to bring folks back. We have been emailing guests, actually. We have a very large database of guests that have inputted their emails into our tabletop systems and guest loyalty programs. And we just said, hey, can you help us find folks? And that's also been a successful metric. We've been doing door clings and yard signs and any public display of, hey, help us out. We're ready to bring people back to work. Please come to a Chili's and enjoy this experience with us. And then finally, we've been looking at Facebook and Indeed. And I'll say those options are expensive. There's no doubt about it, but they are very effective. And we've been really excited about some of the feedback we've had from there. Looking at social media platforms as well has been effective, especially with the Gen Xers of the world. They're really tuned in there, and it's been a really interesting process. So that's just to say, once again, there's no magic bullet here. I think, it's important that we educate ourselves on what the environment looks like for restaurant workers. I think the Dallas Morning News came out with a fantastic article a couple days ago, talking a little bit about anecdotal stories of restaurant folks that had left the industry, but were actually considering coming back for a number of reasons. And so I think it's important for us to remember that it's not just necessarily unemployment benefits. While that we view that as a significant part of why folks may be staying out of the workforce now, it's not the full picture, and there's a lot more to it. It's a complicated process. And so I think understanding that and using strategies that attack on all sides is the most important thing. So thank you again for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
And so, Adriana, actually, someone wrote in, how can small restaurant owners deal with the shortage of workers? And so I know we have Annie Spielman with NFIB on the call. And so you have the larger restaurants and the smaller restaurants. And so there's a difference in that regard. And so we'll hit those questions and get some answers in regards to that particular question as well. So, all right.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, should we stick to the leisure and hospitality industry and move on to tourism?
Let's stick with that.
All right.
Okay.
So leisure and hospitality is we heard was very hard hit due to the pandemic. And we've talked to the restaurant industry. Now let's talk to some of the other industries within travel and tourism. We've got some attractions, museums, parks and hotels were all affected. So in addition to hearing from the Texas Travel Alliance, we've got some of their industry members here to talk about their experiences. Terry Adams, who's the GM with Natural Bridge Caverns, Amber Mattel, who's the Director of HR for Natural Bridge Caverns, and Jody Jones, who is the Director of Human Resources for the San Luis Resort in Galveston. So why don't we start with Terry and Natural Bridge Caverns. Terry, are you there?
Now, Jen, if Terry's not there, Amber maybe.
Hi, guys. This is Amber. Terry's not with us today, so thank y'all for having us, though. We were very excited to be asked. I will just kind of reiterate some of the stuff that Chris and Nikki talked about, or I'm sorry, Clark and Nikki talked about. It's really about trying to, find where you can go to get your applicants. So we've, hit up, job fairs at schools. We've done those before, of course, but we've done a lot more of them recently. We are expecting record-breaking sales this summer. Spring break was kind of a big surprise for us. It was right after the governor had opened up the state, and we were still expecting to be about 20% down, and all of a sudden we were shooting over, 2019 numbers. So it definitely gives us an idea of what we're looking for the summer. So we've got a lot of staffing to do. We have done an incredible amount of things of just changing up stuff. We've recreated our careers page. We've, added text messaging, things just to get those applicants sooner. We've tried making sure that we had enough on our team that were recruiting so that we could be getting them in for those interviews as soon as possible. We want to get them before Whataburger gets them. Sorry, Nikki. But, just trying to hire as soon as you can, making sure you have excellent benefits. We've reintroduced some stuff that we had taken away since COVID. Our tuition reimbursement is one of the programs that has the most amazing return on investment for us. We keep those employees longer, they move into leadership positions. We talk about the career possibilities, most of our leadership team, they've been with us for 20, 30 years. They all went and got degrees and thought they were going to leave us, and then we snagged them and kept them. But making sure that those new recruits know that those possibilities are there, it's extremely important. And that they don't have to have experience to start. A lot of them, they see a tour guide position and they think, oh, I've got to have some special experience. No, as a matter of fact, we are going to give you public speaking skills that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. So telling them how it's going to benefit them in the long run. Usually we have a very large pool of seasonal employees. They work for us for the summer and then they come back at spring break. Well, because of COVID, we didn't hire anybody last summer. So now we're having to really kind of pull back in a whole new group. We did have to up our salaries. We did have to add some bonus, things in there. Our referral bonus, we upped that as well, made it so that you could get it quicker. It's a lot of those same things that, Ron has talked about, Ernest talked about, but just finding who your target audience is, going to them and, doing whatever you can, changing those policies that maybe are outdated. We used to not allow tattoos. Well, now, as long as it's not offensive, we will allow those tattoos. The uniform, is it something that you can update? So all of those things are, just extremely important to make sure you're here and now and hitting your audience. We're getting there. We still got a long way to go, but I am certainly happy that we're here instead of where we were last year. I really don't have a whole lot more to say. I think it's been said, so some really good advice already. I've already made some notes. I like the candidate rediscovery. Thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the idea of this whole event is to learn from each other, because this is a team effort, and only by everybody working together are we gonna be able to recover fully. So some great ideas there as well, Amber. And now let's hear from Jody Jones with the San Luis Resort.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Jody Jones, and I am with the San Luis Resort in Galveston. See how beautiful it is? I'm also advertising. So, you know, our resort is part of Landry's, and Landry's has more than 600 hotels, restaurants, casinos, entertainment complexes. And as everyone has mentioned on this call, that the restaurant and hospitality market has been hit very hard when it comes to businesses and employees. Just in Galveston, in the Kemah area where I am at, we have over 700 open positions. That's just us. That's not including all the other hotels and restaurants and entertainment complexes that are in this area. In the beginning stages of the pandemic, it was the business aspect with everyone being quarantined and no one going out to eat or going to hotels, things like that. But then it slowly started coming back in May, and we started calling all of our employees back. When the pandemic first started, Landry's laid off more than 15,000 people. So that was quite a bit. But we started calling them back, and some would not come back for various reasons. Fear of the virus. They were receiving an additional $600 in unemployment at that time. And then the city of Galveston closed the beaches on July 4th. So back down we went. So started laying off employees again, didn't have as much business. So far this year, as other people have said on the call, we are booming. I mean, we are beating all of our records. Our average rate on the weekends right now for a hotel room is $600 a night, and we're getting that. The problem is we don't have enough employees to service that person that's willing to pay that amount of money to come here. You know, it's they're not understanding that, and I don't blame them. When you pay $600 a night, you expect the service. That means that if you don't have enough employees to clean their rooms on time, they have to wait to get their rooms. They have to wait to be seated 2 and 3 hours. You know, and they're not understanding why half of the restaurant is closed. Well, half of the restaurant is closed because we don't have enough employees to service them. But you know, like a lot of people on this call, we're doing a lot of the same things, trying to think outside of the box. Some of the things that we have done and I have found to be successful for us is we actually have a recruiting website that we put our job openings in, and all those job openings go out to the major websites, Snag a Job, Indeed, those type of things. And the first thing I do in the morning is anybody who has applied, I call them, because everybody on this island is looking for the same thing we're looking for. So you have to be timely. I've told that with all of our managers, you have to be timely because somebody's going to snag that person right away. Also, I have found that if you don't get an answer when you call them, or maybe their voice box is full or whatever the case might be, then send them a text, send them an email. Young people seem to really respond when it comes to text. So you just got to keep those lines of communications open. We are like everybody else. We're offering sign-on bonuses and referral bonuses. As I said, we're part of Landry's, and one of the things that we're offering right now that not a lot of people can do is we're offering 2 free tickets to a home game to the Houston Rockets if you sign on with us. And I'm kind of going back in time and doing some things that I used to do, which would be putting flyers on windshields of cars and grocery stores. I've been to the Salvation Army with flyers and telling them we're looking for right now we have about 53 positions open that we need to fill within the next couple of weeks. Job fairs, we've done a job fair every week for the last 2 months, and hasn't been well attended, but we're not giving up. We continue to do it. And another thing that we have not done in the past, but we're trying to do, is work with people's schedules. a lot of times when someone would apply and they were very limited on their schedules, can only work in the morning or just 3 hours in the afternoon. And it's difficult for managers, you know, to work around those schedules, but we are finding that we have to. So we're doing that as well. We, some other incentive programs that we are doing with our room attendants, we are offering, if they will clean 2 extra rooms a day, at the end of the week, they're going to get some type of a monetary reward for that, or we're offering a daycare voucher that will pay for their daycare for the week. We're also offer a free meal while you're working. It's either lunch or dinner. All employees get a free meal. We also have an IHOP that is on our property, and yesterday was National Recruiting Day for IHOP. So if anybody went to IHOP yesterday, you probably saw signs everywhere, and they have tables set up with balloons and flyers for you to actually use the barcode and scan it, and you can apply right then and there while you're at the restaurant. So all kinds of things everyone is doing, and just like I said, thinking out of the box and trying to get people through the door. Thank you for allowing me to continue to spotlight the employee needs for our industry. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jody. And I love your background and Amber's background as well. Those backgrounds are amazing, and we are quite jealous. But appreciate your insights and what you all are doing and the strategies that you're undertaking. Commissioner?
Turn it back to me. So we've had entertainment that's there. We're going to visit the caverns. We have been fed with restaurants. We've stayed in the hotel. We've had our twos delivered, and we've had our home built. And so we've gotten all of those things kind of lined up. And so if we're going to partake in all of those activities, we want to make sure that we're healthy to do that. So we're going to turn to the healthcare stage, and we have Dr. King joining us from DHR Hospital. Dr. King's new on their board, but he's not new to this work. And so Dr. King, thank you for being here. We know healthcare is another one of those important industries that as we get out, we want to make sure that we're taken care of. And so let's see what's happening within the healthcare space and what you guys are doing down there at DHR as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I work with DHR with their education and training programs. And DHR Health is over 500 bed, especially health hospital, also operates over 70 clinics across the Rio Grande Valley, 5,000 plus employee operation. Even before the pandemic, there was a nursing shortage, not only at DHR, but in the Valley, but really nationwide. This has been tremendously exacerbated by the pandemic for a variety of reasons, illness, the same things that affect everyone else. Obviously, the hospitals had to continue to operate, and we're a critical part of that, but also through federal state funding, there was a big effort to hire a lot of nurses at very, very high wages, $200, $300 an hour to go serve in critical COVID units. This actually drained off a lot of nurses out of hospitals, especially out of the critical care units. There's no way that the hospitals could compete with those kind of salaries. So our nursing staff in the hospital, in many hospitals across the nation, was completely decimated. We're not sure how long it's going to take to recover from that. Many of those may never return. Either they may remain as traveling nurses, they may have been close to retirement, and maybe they've made kind of that last money they needed with those kind of wages. But so what we've done here, we've really had to, I mean, we've got to continue to operate. We've got to meet with people's healthcare needs. So we've had a big initiative to hire licensed vocational nurses. We've hired about 60 already. We're going to be needing well over 100, and really switch so we can have the qualification paired to a team nursing model temporarily. One of the things we've done in regards to that is all the LVNs we're signing on, we're requiring that they obtain their RN degree within 4 years. And then we're providing tuition support. We're coordinating with the local colleges. Huge problem still because the nursing pipeline, the capacity of schools to train nurses continues to be very limited, but we're pushing on that. Also internally, a lot of upskilling as nurses from more highly skilled nurses in critical care units, ICUs, et cetera, were some of the first ones to take up these jobs that were being offered during the pandemic. So internally, we've done a lot of training to upskill regular floor nurses to become critical care nurses, ICU, emergency room, and different things like that. We've been taking advantage of some of the Skills Development Fund grants, including the COVID Skills Development Grant through Workforce, and that's been helpful. In-house, a few years ago, our hospital created its own workforce school to try to deal with some of the areas. Does not yet offer nursing. We're scaling that up and building on that, and we're going to continue to build our internal capacity for training as well. We're also exploring partnering with with Workforce and so forth to see how we can establish daycare for our employees to resolve that issue. We were already looking at that before the pandemic. Now, at the time we're in, it seems to be more critical than ever. The other thing that we've done is been very intentional about building and developing over the period of time of this pandemic, very transparent career ladders and pathways, with very specifically defining the different skill levels and different what it takes to move from one level to the other, and how someone can get from the floor, from housekeeping or from nursing or anywhere else, up as high as they want to go, and then internally developing upskilling opportunities. We also provide tuition support for all of our employees, no matter what level they're at, if they want to continue their education. So whether they're in housekeeping or whether they're a nurse wanting to become a nurse practitioner, for example. And so we provide it all at every level. We provide tuition support. So like others also, especially in the area of nursing and everything, been reviewing and evaluating increasing wages as well. And so just looking at every way possible to, address this. This hospital offers many critical specialties, even such as liver and kidney transplants and so forth, that until a few years ago were not offered in our area of the state. And so as we continue to grow and try to offer new lines of services, we're going to continue to partner with Workforce and everyone else to look at how we can overcome these shortages in critical skill areas. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I do know the nursing shortage, for example, has been longstanding. It's much, much worse because of COVID. And I know, similar to some of the other speakers, the projections for the future right now, if things don't change, are a tremendous crisis in shortage of nurses over the next few decades.
So Dr. King, thank you so much, and my best to Mr. Cantu and Dr. Ambrosia there at DHR Hospital, and the work that you guys do with our Skills Development Fund grant and the like. Healthcare is an important, critical part of this industry, and we're going to do our part to make sure that we're making a difference in that space as well. We're rounding up on the time here, and I know we have Tommy Simmons, our legal counsel, that's going to provide about 3 to 4 minutes worth of remarks. But before that, small business is the backbone of the economy. You continue to hear that. We had the question about how can small businesses get involved in that aspect. And so I'm going to turn it over to Adriana, who has a small business advocate. The governor's office does a number of different things in the world of small business. And so she's going to introduce our next panelist to round this up.
Thank you, Commissioner. And you're absolutely right. Small business is so critical to the state of Texas and is the backbone of our economy. Texas is home to more than 2.8 million small businesses that make up 99% of the Texas businesses and employ half of our workforce. And we have the small business advocate in our office, and we've been doing a number of small business webinars in partnership with the Texas Workforce Commission. And one of our strong partners is Annie Spillman, who's the state director for NFIB. And we're going to hear from Annie and hear, Annie, what you're hearing from your members on this issue.
Well, thank you, Adriana, and thank you, Commissioner, for having us here today. NFIB, we are a small business organization. The interesting thing about our organization is that we represent pretty much every industry in the state's economy: manufacturing, construction, wholesale, retail, services industry. So everybody on this call really reflects, those economic sectors of our state. But I'm here to sort of bring that small business perspective. One thing that I'm sure you are aware of, and we thank the governor's office for having a special task force to focus on those small business issues. Prior to the pandemic, the state was blessed to have one of the lowest unemployment rates that we've ever had. That being said, small businesses, we're still really trying to compete for those positions. When we ballot our members, finding and keeping skilled workers is one of their biggest issues. It's either they are competing with those larger corporations that are taking those businesses away, or they're competing with our own government that are over-regulating, they're overtaxing, and the cost is just too much. So that being said, moving forward, small businesses are resilient. A lot of our guys, they were able to make it through the pandemic, not without any bruising or fracturing, but they're making it through. 44% of our members say that they're still having trouble locating those workers. But obviously, in order to attract and keep the talent and those skilled workers, whom, these small businesses consider their family, they want to take care of them. But small businesses are, they're practical as well, and they know they need to offer competitive wages, competitive benefits, bonuses. The biggest thing that I think a small business can do to attract and keep, those workers is to provide the flexibility. And they're only able to provide flexibility, as much flexibility as, the state, local, federal government will allow them. So moving forward, they know that many of our members are being flexible with work schedules. They understand the childcare situation. One thing we've talked about is maybe as industries, we come together and talk about creating some sort of grant pool to provide, childcare services, and people can apply for that. Just try to think outside the box. Pivot was the word, that everybody used during the pandemic. And I think moving forward, small businesses have really learned, from what happened, and maybe they're a little bit more prepared if another emergency, economic or natural, were to hit as well. Prep on, how to take care of their employees if they're having to work remotely, and just thinking about those options. I think the best thing is we're talking about best practices in getting people to return back to work. I know that I'm a little biased, but I think small businesses really are the example of best practices. They're flexible with their employees. They're parts of their community. They're really embedded into their community, and they're well known. They're sort of like the local name brand, but they treat their employees like family. They take care of them. I know a lot of our folks are going to continue on with any of the sort of CDC or OSHA regulations and guidance, and really step it up to make sure that they're protected and they're safe, but mainly that they know that they're truly cared for. And I think that's something a small business can truly do, even and above maybe a larger corporation, to where these folks sometimes become numbers. I'm not saying that's always the case, but moving forward, we want to continue to work with other industries on what your best practices are, and then how can a small business really implement that without creating more compliance or cost issues. Let's make it practical. And, for the small businesses, they just want the opportunity to compete, keep their doors open, and employ these folks. And so NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business, is a good little resource. You can come here. A lot of our guys, they don't have the resources like the PR firms to, or money to go be on Indeed. So I simply just have members calling me and saying, what can we do? We send them to the Work in Texas website through TWC. But if anybody's looking for a job, send them my way and we'll find them something within the state. We've got 20,000 members in Texas. So thank you for giving us a seat at the table. And, small businesses really are treated very well in Texas. And we hope we can keep that environment here, because it ultimately protects our workers and the economy.
So Annie?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Annie. I think both of us are going to jump in and just say thank you for all of the work that you do and for all of your members. You're absolutely right. Our Texas small businesses are resilient, and we certainly saw that throughout this past year.
Good. And I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing as well in that regard. And so with that, we're running up against the clock, against the hour. This has been just fantastic. I think a lot of good information that's been shared. Tommy Simmons from our office is a lead employment law attorney. And so Tommy, you have about 3 minutes to kind of quickly give some notes, and then we're going to close out the session so that we can let you guys get back to your work at hand. But we may end up having to do this again as we go down the line. So Tommy, I'll turn it over to you to talk about if an employee refuses work, the suitable work, what can you do in that regard?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And yeah, time is golden, so I'll try to hit the high points on that. Concerning work refusals, we have guidance on our website about this. Basically, claimants, people who are claiming benefits each week, they're obligated to accept an offer of suitable work. And if they fail to accept it, there might be a disqualification for them unless they can show that they had good cause to refuse it. An employer can report a work refusal to a couple of ways. One way is by email, and that is being posted in the chat box as we speak. The other is through a special portal online on our website, and there's a button on our homepage for the agency at twc.texas.gov that leads to the work refusal documentation portal online. Any report of a work refusal should include identifying information about the claimant and the name of the company and the job that was offered and refused, and also mention whether it would have been returned to the same job that the employee had before. In addition, mention any health and safety precautions the company is taking to minimize risk to workers, such as compliance with CDC and OSHA guidelines, PPE supplied, social distancing practices, and so on. Finally, include any documentation regarding the work refusal that you may have, such as an email or a text message from the claimant explaining that they're not going to take the job and why. There are certain high-risk situations that may excuse certain types of work refusals, and this guidance is also on our website as well. For instance, if the job poses a risk to the claimant's health, safety, or morals, or if the job is vacant due to a labor dispute or is based on membership or non-membership in a union. Also, if the job involves substandard pay or benefits or working conditions compared to similar jobs in the area. Another acceptable reason for turning down a job offer is if there's a better job offer on the table. That would be subject to verification. COVID-19 related reasons would include if the claimant is 65 or older with medical issues that create a higher risk for COVID-19, or if there are other COVID-19 issues such as current infection or a recovery period or a quarantine going on, or if a household member is infected or at high risk, or if a school or daycare is closed without reasonable alternatives available. Any other reason for turning down a job will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. And so employers are encouraged to let TWC know if there's a situation like that, and that will be investigated by the agency and ruled on. And I'd just like to reiterate this already in the chat box, but any employment law related questions can be directed to Commissioner Demerson's office via employerinfo@twc.texas.gov. Thank you very much for the time, Commissioner.
Tommy, thank you guys so much for what you do. So Tommy Simmons, Belisa Chapa, Elsa Ramos, and Mario Hernandez are 4 employment law attorneys in our office. Make sure you contact the office. That is a valuable resource for small businesses in our office. And so we have about 5 minutes left. What I'm going to do is the panelists that we just heard from, if you guys can take 30 seconds, you need 30 seconds to really last closing remarks, and then we're going to have Adriana to close out, and then I'll close out as well. But Tommy, thank you so much. But I want to allow, if there's any tidbit that we forgot, and we want to be respectful of the time, but you guys can give us 30 seconds in regards to asking those questions. And so, Adriana, you can start with yours, and we'll go down that list.
Sure. I mean, I learned so much today, and there's so much that we've heard in terms of thinking outside the box, connecting with local partners, whether that be your local workforce development board or education institutions or community colleges, being timely, reviewing your policies. I mean, just some really great tidbits of information. And then I'll pass it off and see if anybody else wants to add anything.
So we'll call up Nikki. Anything you want to add?
No, the only thing I would add, I didn't, and I think we did through other industries, we really looked at our training program and enhanced that training program to be very flexible. And, you know, sometimes streamlined it, but we really enhanced the training program and made it extremely clear and not time bound, so people can move through it as fast as they want.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah. Clark?
Same thing. I think keep pushing on all cylinders and make sure you don't leave any stone unturned, whether it's guests or putting on door clings, anything like that. It all helps for sure.
Dr. King. And we'll go to Ernesto.
I don't have anything additional.
All right, you good. Ernesto.
Keep on trucking is all I'm going to say here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Ron.
Well, Commissioner, I just wanted to tell you that Chicago Cubs helmet is signed by Mike Ditka.
I thought so. I thought so. There was a Ditka semblance there. So thank you so much. Scott. All right, and if Scott's out there, Jody.
I think I'm good, except all y'all need to come down here.
We will be there. We will be there. Amber.
Speaking of down there, come down there.
That's right.
The only other thing I would say is that, you know, talking to your applicants about your safety protocols, you know, we do vaccine clinics and we have rapid tests. So things like that can really ease their anxiety about returning to work. So that was it.
All right. And Annie.
I just want to remind people that small businesses truly are our second chance hirers. So keep that in mind. They're not going to refuse, you know, somebody for any sort of certain criminal background history. They'll give everyone a chance unless it was some sort of industry where that was appropriate. But just know that our small businesses, they want to help, they want to hire.
Good. So I really appreciate each and every one of you guys for your participation on this program. I'm going to, a few questions that we had. Is it possible for Texas to possibly mandate or require workers to get a vaccine? Hit our employment law attorneys with that question, and then they can kind of give you some guidance in regards to that. Restaurants and small businesses, Andy, we're going to circle back in regards to that. I'll get with Adriana and we'll visit on that. Waffle House is a part of this, and they want it to be a part of this panel as well. What can they do to become a part of the panel? If we're doing anything in the future, the mere fact that you ask, we're going to respond to that as well. And then lastly, how can the state of Texas help incentivize? In the coming weeks, we're going to be launching our Texas Restaurant Recovery Initiative with the Restaurant Association. There are a number of different tools that are out there. Mary York may be on this call as well. And so some of the training programs that they've had from the COVID responses and the like, we're doing some work in that regard. And then the Houston office, they're getting ready to host a hiring session that's coming on, and they wanted us to mention that. Before I turn it over to Adriana, I wanted to show our award, an award given to us by the Texas Restaurant Association and Dr. Emily Knight, who I just appreciate the work that she's doing in that regard. But this is the Resilience Award, and that's the COVID ball. And they were basically saying, put a fork in it. And so we're putting a fork in it in a big, big way, and we're going to continue moving on in big ways. I mentioned at the beginning, Governor Abbott said it, the Texas economy is booming, and we're excited to be a part of that. Texas employers are back in the saddle, and we are wanting our employees to get on that ride as well. And so with that, Adriana, any closing remarks?
Yes, Commissioner. I mean, there is no doubt that the efforts and hard work of our Texas businesses is what keeps Texas as the national leader in terms of economic activity. So I want to thank you, Commissioner, for inviting me to participate today. I want to thank our partners and our panelists for their information. And then I also want to thank everyone out there who joined us and for the work that you are doing on behalf of the state of Texas.
Good. Thank you, Adriana, and to the production team. Thank you, guys. Times are tough, federal, so are Texans. And so with that, we're going to close out. Thank you guys for all you're doing. Contact our offices if you need anything. Thank you so much.